Hey guys, welcome to another ride in Struggle Bus where every wheel is an empty triangle. For today's bus ride, we're playing against a 15K on OGS. And before we get into the video, I'd like to thank both my Patreons and also all of my opponents who play along with these silly little videos. For those of you who haven't seen the introduction video for this series, I do let my opponents know what's going on before I play them. So everybody we play, they're opting in. So I appreciate them for giving us their time to play along with these, and I hope that they get something good out of these videos. And I also want to thank my Patreons who are helping show their love for the channel. Again, it's not at all required. I'm just happy that people are watching the videos, honestly. But if you're looking to get reviews and or lessons, that's probably the cheapest way that I have to offer them, so go take a look at the rewards there. As for the game today, we are focusing a lot on cuts in this game, as well as how to deal with overplays. There are a few overplays that my opponent made in this game, and in other videos I've been backing off from them because I haven't wanted to overly punish or make things complicated. In this game I took the opposite approach. I didn't go all crazy on him, but I did call him out on a few of the overplays. So those are things that you have to look forward to. Either way, I hope you guys enjoy the game. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's start this one off. We're going to do a 4-4 and a 3-4 facing. Looks like he is going to do the same. And so let's see where he approaches. So we're going to focus on our corners first, then the sides, then the center. And so he enclosed his corner, so I'm going to go after his other corner. I like splitting the two corners, but you could have done a 3-3 or approach from that side. We also could have solidified this corner. All those options are fine. I just prefer to split up their sides. He backed off, and so we're going to continue to push into his corner, and if he defends, we will come back. And so he backed off this way, which is an interesting direction. So we can come back, or we can go into the corner. And since this move threatens to go into the corner and he didn't respond to that, let's follow up our move, because we should be following up our threats. So we're just going to fully claim the corner now. That is the intent of this move. This move asks black if he cares about defending his corner. He answered no, so we go and take the corner. This isn't necessarily bad for black or white. This is just, again, we wanted to follow this up. He jumped into 3-3, and we're going to block in one of the two ways. I don't want to build a wall facing his stones, so I'm going to make a wall facing mine. And I'm going to do the simpler variation here. I'm going to Hane directly. We can extend, but this is a variation that we're more used to seeing. And then we will push ahead. He should push 2 more times, and we'll see if he does. So we push, he should push once more. Sometimes the old Joseki had them playing b4, which isn't a terribly good exchange. We cannot let the head of 3 stones get capped there. Hane at the head of 3, so we are going to extend one more time. And now black can Tanuki from here. And so he's going to exchange this. And this exchange is not terrible, but you shouldn't do it because there is a weakness with this cut right here. And once we make this exchange, because black's going to come back and connect, and then we're going to play the tiger's mouth here. This cut really isn't a concern anymore because we're so much stronger on the left side. I mean, not to mention, obviously, if he cuts, we can just net and or ladder that stone. But if he peeped here, we would have had a tougher decision to make. But now that we're strong on this side, we can push back against that peep, which has shown up in one of our games before. So he's approaching our corner, and we've got 2 options here. We can pincer and build off of this, or we can kick and extend. And I really should pincer here because to build off this wall, but I'm going to kick just to keep things simple. One of these days maybe I'll stop keeping things so simple, because we can't just shy away from pincers because they are a very large part of the game and they're a tough part to deal with. And so eventually I will start playing them. But for now we'll just keep it very, very basic and just go and try to secure this corner. and he takes this 2-point extension, which is fine. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play here to make it so he can't expand as easily, and this does build off of our wall here. Could have played a 4th line stone or a 3rd line stone. You know, they both have their pros and cons here. I wanted to undercut his group a little bit, and so I played on the 3rd line. And he kicks us, and so we're going to respond to that. And I always say, you know, when we're attached to, we either extend or hane. So let's stay true to the word. We will extend here. We could have considered jumping, and if he wedged, we could Atari, right? If we had jumped and he had played this, we could have Atari'd and then connected, and this would have been fine as well. But we just decided to stand up. And so he is running out, and we can look at also running to help develop this, but he's already alive. So I'm not sure doing this is really the biggest thing on the board right now. We still have this side that's not really claimed, and then we've got this side as well. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play an approach on these 2 stones. And I think I'm going to play here. Typically, we'd want to approach a stone 2 spaces away, but because he's a little stronger, I want to give him, you know, you want to respect that strength a little bit, so you don't want to play too close to it. This still might be a little too close to it, but I think it'll be fine. And again, we're just following the rules of going after the corners and then the sides. Right, this was, you know, before going for the center. A move like G10 would have been a little too central on this board. We still have this side that we can go after. Once this side is shored up, and once, you know, whatever this turns into is there, then we can look at moves to try to build this. But right now, we can just use this group as the strength that it's intended to be, and look at this as our area, which is fine. Okay, and so he shoulder hits our stone here, so we can look at cutting him off this way, but I actually just want to work towards moving towards my stone. So we're going to play here and get 3rd line territory, which is not great if he continues to push out. Black will make out on this exchange. This was a pretty good move by Black, but he really needs to play Q12 right now because this hane is really big for us. Or he can do that. So we can look at taking this cut directly, because Black will have trouble dealing with this, right? If we cut here, and you know, if he extends, you know, we're going to get into a big fight, but it's going to be running right towards my stone. And if he does anything else, this stone will be a little susceptible. But in this case, I don't know, I really want to cut. And this is where I get in trouble with these games, because I don't want to, you know, I purposely try to keep the game simplified, and taking this cut complicates things a little bit. But I think in this case, we have to take this cut. And so that's what I'm going to do here. Normally we'd fall back, but I think that gives Black a little too much, and we're strong enough to take this cut because of this stone here. And so he backed off here, and so now we can just extend, which will kill this stone. If he had come out, we would have continued as well, and eventually we would have gotten a wall that would have been an influence, and it would have been fine, because Black wouldn't have gotten very many points here. But in this case, he protected his outside stone and gave up this one. And so in that case, if that was his plan, to give this up, then he shouldn't have played it. It's always worth considering, when you're going to set up a cut like this, what is your plan if your opponent does in fact cut you? If your plan is, I don't know, then you can't play that cut. In that case, again, I think this would have been a better move for Black. And so we have to be mindful of that. Again, anytime you leave, you play a move that leaves a cut behind, you need to have a plan for if you get cut. So here I did take the cut, and his plan was to give up this stone. So that was just a little too much. So we're back to the game, and he plays this shoulder hit. And so here, backing off would be a little too weak. We have this really strong wall here. And so what we can do is we can do a forcing move, which is kind of interesting. We can play this to go after this stone, and then we can look at going after this stone. So let's do that. This is a little not basic, but we do have this wall, right? That's the whole point of this exchange that we did with black here, was to get this outside facing wall. And now that we've got this outside facing wall, we want to fight with it. And now we can attach to this stone. And this takes, we can actually play either of these. But in this case, I like this better, and I'll explain why after I play it. So now that the stone's here, if black plays the wedge, then we get to Atari and connect. And if black tries to push through, we get to connect. So these two stones are connected. If we had played here instead, if we had played this move, we could get cut. Though this looks a little worse for black. I didn't even want the cut. I just wanted to stay connected, and so this stays connected. Because again, one of our rules is protect our cuts, and so that's what we're going to do. So he does wedge, so we are going to Atari. This will be a little problematic if he lets us capture. So I'm hoping he does not. If he connects, I'm just going to Hane on the outside. And so he does connect, and so we're just going to play our Hane, which should end up getting this stone. And again, that's because of this wall here. Black really doesn't have a direction to run, so he played a little too deep. Again, backing up when he played this stone. This is just too close. He's already cut from his group, and so that is all we did. So we just kept him disconnected. Of course, this move was a little, not necessarily the easiest thing to see, but if we look at this and he comes back, then we go and capture this stone. And so we're just looking at the cutting points, right? These two stones are connected, but it requires another stone to do it. And so that's what we looked at here. So he has moved, and so he has peeped now. So we don't actually need to answer this because this stone right here, not important. But if we do play here, we probably have to capture this stone. So in this case, I am going to stay connected because there's going to be either a cut here or a cut here that he's going to have to worry about. So if he pulls back, we can do something like this, jump out and get ahead, and then this cut becomes an issue for black. So it looks like we're going to be focusing quite a bit on cuts in the game and review. Okay, so he comes back here, which doesn't protect this cut, but it's a little too small right now. Just playing here and getting that one stone really isn't that big here. So what I'm going to do now is let's look at the sides that are open. We've got the bottom side and we've got the top side, and both of them, they don't really have much to develop. But in this case, I think I'm going to play here just to take away his extension from this corner. Again, playing here would just be a little too central, and we've got the sides that can still be developed. We're not going to get any points here, but if black had played something like N3, then he would have been able to potentially develop this into a reasonably sized area. So we wanted to stop that from happening. We can also look at J17 as a large side move, as well as B16. B16 is a second line move, but we're getting to the point in the game where second line moves are going to be playable, and this is a pretty big one because it threatens to undercut his group here, and it solidifies some more points in the corner. Okay, that's a pretty interesting move he has made. So for this, I don't want to overly punish this one, and honestly, I'm not even sure. It would be something probably like J5, right? If we wanted to push against this, we could do something like this, because he's eyeing this cut at E4, but that cut isn't an issue when we can play a move like this. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep it real simple. I'm just going to block him from going into our territory here, and now something like J5 will be a big attack on this stone, so he probably needs to run out. And as he runs out, we can consider attacking it. And I will just extend. So he extends. It looks like he's trying to build up the center, but it's still a little too early to build up the center. So what I'm going to do is just extend and solidify the side. Well, this doesn't not solidify the side, but go get a base here. Make sure that these 3 stones can't actually work towards anything over here. Again, it's really tough. It's really tough to turn the center into points, and we're going to see that with these 3 stones. They're nice and strong, but they're not really going to turn into points here. But he's being nice and consistent. This is a good move, right? His plan is he's going to try to develop here, and that's a tough plan, but he is being nice and consistent with his moves, which is nice to see. So we will block here to make sure that there's no Aji on the right side. But now I think we are fine. And we can look at probably taking J17 or B16. Those look like the two big moves right now. And so I will take J17. And so while he's building up all the center, you notice we're getting all the rest of the moves that are on the side of the board. And it's just going to be too tough to turn this into anything, any amount of points, which is the whole thing behind corners before sides before the centers. It's so hard to turn this into actual points because he needs to build all 4 sides. And it's like, he's got a pretty okay wall here and a start there, but we've got these stones that we can just run in from, and we can probably even plop a stone up here. So let's see, does that potentially turn that cut on? And it might. So I will answer this shoulder hit. We can kind of treat it like an attachment, and we will extend. And he protects his cut. But yeah, so it looks like he's again being consistent. He's building his wall here. He's building his wall here. Unfortunately, it's just going to be too tough to turn this into anything. And so I'm going to play the last large side move before going into the center. And we got him to respond to it, so we got that in Sente. And so all we're going to do is we're just going to jump in off of this stone. And we're just going to try to turn all of the center into essentially 0 points. He will probably be able to block this and turn this into something, but it won't be enough. It won't be enough to counteract this side and this corner. I will answer this and fully take our corner. And I will even take this move. This is an end game move, but it threatens to take away all his points here. And it solidifies our corner in Sente, which is always good. So now we're pretty much in end game, right? And so we can look at reducing this more. We can look at going after his corner a little bit more. And so let's actually play these moves to reduce his corner. Because honestly, the corner is going to be more points than I think he's going to get in the center. And so we're just going to press in on both sides. And we can even take our Sente moves here. And we can even do the same end game here. And again, these are end game moves, but they threaten to take quite a few points away, and his corner won't be alive locally. He's not going to die, but the corner won't be alive locally if he doesn't answer these moves. Okay, so now we just need to make sure that the center doesn't turn into anything too crazy. And these stones are cut off from their friends. So we can even just do something simple like this. Just make sure that we get some strength here, because if we push here, we're going to be able to cut off these 3 stones. And so he needs to be mindful of that. And so while he's hopefully spending moves to protect these stones, we can just turn this center into a big pile of nothing. Unfortunately, he took a Hane that does not end in Sente. When I took these 2, this ends in Sente, because if he plays somewhere else, I don't know, just say he connects up here, then we capture this stone. But unfortunately, this Hane on the first line does not end in Sente for him, because we play this, it blocks. He shouldn't save this stone. He should give this stone up. because playing a4 in Gote is just too small right now. It only saved 1 point. And if I play a move like this, it probably kills these 3 stones. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this move here and just make sure that we're 100% solid down here. That way, if we do turn our focus onto these 3 stones, that we don't have to worry about anything here. So he presses in, and I think this is a great time to show that these moves don't necessarily need to be sente if they're not threatening to kill a group. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play this move, and hopefully this signals to him that these 3 stones are in trouble. And hopefully we can get him to connect those. And then we can come back and answer that. He didn't. He did not answer it. And he also didn't follow this up. But he did attach to this. We are just going to come back. If he pushes, we will hane here. Like so. And now if he hanes, again, this is not going to be sente because we can block. And actually, he needs to protect those 2 stones, which he did. So so I will give him 1 more shot to save these 3 stones, and I will just play this very slow move in the center of the board. Again, just to make sure that the center that he spent all these stones trying to build up is turning into no points. We will answer this one, so we will play here. Okay, he makes this unfortunate shape with the empty triangle here, and unfortunately, I mean, at a certain point in time, we gotta kill the stones, right? And so I think we've given him enough chances to save that group. So I think it is time to fully cut it off. I'm never happy to kill stones here, but at a certain point in time, we do have to, make true on our threats, and so we're just going to keep on pushing out. And at this point in time, this game is pretty much over. White has a huge territory here, a very large side, a reasonable corner, and he's got a pretty reasonable corner that's going to be offset by this. A small corner here and a small side here and a small side here. So let's get to the end of the game and see how it ended. Okay, so the game got to here and he resigned at this point. You'll notice we did end up getting these 3 stones as well as these 3. Score estimator says white by about 65, which makes sense. But he was able to turn this into a larger territory, so that got a little bigger than I expected, but I think the trade-off was that we made this a little bigger as well. So let's take a look at the review for this game. So going to the beginning, everything started off well enough. We went for the 4 corners, and then black goes to solidify his corner, and we go and approach corner, and we do a very typical variation here. And black has a number of options. We the normal Joseki is he would play here, and we could come back. Black can also just ignore this because black can play at either A or B, so there's no rush. Black can decide to take this first, and if we do, our a normal variation here, whatever, even if white comes back, black can still jump. Or if white takes this side, then black can go settle in the corner. So black has options here. He decided to jump back, and so again, the whole point of this move is to threaten to take the corner, so we went and took the corner, and black took our 3-3, blocked, and we did this variation, which I'm sure you guys are used to seeing. At this point, as black should tanuki here. You don't want to take this exchange. It's not a huge deal, but it fixes all the odds you have to cut for white. Once we make this exchange, this black can't really peep this cut anymore because we don't care about it because we're so strong on this side now that we can do something like this and just start a big fight. As where if black hadn't done this exchange yet and goes here, this you can kind of see like this move is kind of nonsensical now because this cut does hurt, and now you know, this turns into a big fight that just might not be comfortable. But once we make this exchange, this peep is no longer scary. Black approaches the final corner with his Tanuki, which is good movement. Again, I mentioned that we could have looked at a pincer here. And when we pincer, this isn't an attack on this stone. That's not how you should be viewing it. This is me saying, or this is white saying, that this side is more important than this corner. But the variations there tends to be a little more complicated, and if black messes it up, he can lose on the spot. So decided to just keep a simple variation, and he came back a little over-concentrated, but not bad, especially when he's this close to strength. This isn't a bad idea. That's a fine move. And I decided to approach immediately. He kicked, we extended, and he jumped. And at this point, this is a very central move. And black's group looks perfectly healthy. Our group looks perfectly healthy. So I didn't want to match another move in the middle. So I went and took this side. He did a good shoulder hit. And again, here, I think black should just extend. I think black is happy with this, especially if his plan is to build the center. Right now, he can look at something like this to reduce this and maybe build this area. But when he took this Hane, it opened up this cut. And again, anytime you guys are going to make a move like this that invites a cut, you need to have a plan for what that cut is before you make this move. Right? Before you do this, you need to just ask yourself one simple question. What is my plan if my opponent cuts here? And it looks like black didn't have a plan here. I would have expected either this or the Atari and connect if black was looking at this cut. And you can see this makes things a little more complicated, right? This isn't going to be a simple thing, but this is the type of move that we really shouldn't be backing away from. We could have chosen this, but then black keeps us on the second line. This is really sad and really painful for white, and so I wasn't willing to give that, and so I played this cut, and he backed off, and so I just extended to eat that stone. But then he played here, and this was also a little too much. It's too close to this strength. I think he could have played something like this and been okay, or just a simple knight's move. But I don't think this is what we want to be doing. I think we can extend off these two stones, even if it's something as simple as this. We can also look at h17, but reducing this it seems a little too early, and this is too close. And I'm as a 15K, he's not going to be used to responses like this, where I'm going to play this first to threaten to get this stone. But even here, it wouldn't have been terrible if this happened for black, right? This isn't a terrible outcome, but he went and saved that stone, and in doing so, and ended up losing this stone. And so yeah, this was a little, this isn't double-digit Q stuff. This is some trickery with this attachment and reading that this wedge doesn't work, right? And this is what happened in game, and same thing if he played here, we just would have attached. So yeah, a little bit of trickery to see D11 into F11, but it is what it is. So we Atari'd, and then we Hane'd here, and he peeped. And again, I mentioned that we don't even need to respond to this, right? We can go over here, and if he does this, we can push in either direction, and we'll be fine. But to keep things nice and simple and honest, I connected the peep, and then he backed off, and we did Tanuki and take the side. And then he pressed in here. Again, could have been aggressive here. We could have played a move like this to build this area while chasing this stone. But I respected the move, and I just backed off. And so he pushed, and we pushed, and he pushed, and we Tanuki'd because there's no follow-up. He can't do this because then his stones are just going to die. And so we did not need to respond to that. And so we came and made a base on the bottom. And he did, again, this was staying consistent with what he's trying to do on this board. But again, it's really difficult. It's really difficult to build the center. So we went and solidified this side, and then took the last big point on the top and responded to that shoulder hit, and then took another big point. So this is just us This is just us taking larger points on the board. So this is identifying, you know, is this move sensei, right? That's always an important question to ask whenever your opponent plays a move. Is this move sensei? And in this case, no, I don't think it's sensei. And so I'm just going to play what I think is the biggest move on the board. And in that case, you know, b16 probably isn't the biggest move on the board, but it's fairly large. So I played that, and unfortunately he responded to it, so I was then able to get another big move, which is going into the center. If he had ignored this to play something like this, now we can see that this might be turning into something really good for black. But he missed the timing, and we were able to get in first. And we made some exchanges up there. And here I shouldn't have played Q19. It's not sensei. I should have just kept on moving up into the center. But we did play that early end game, and then we played some more end game here just to reduce that corner. And then we took this end game's sensei because if he responded up there, I knew he was going to respond down here. And then we're able to get in more. And at this point, again, yeah, these 3 stones they're under attack, and we could have just killed them right here. I don't think these survive with these stones here. It's just too big of a net. But I gave him some chances to try to do that. You know, playing here, I was kind of hinting at like, hey, we really need to be saving these. That's kind of what I was hoping this move would tip him off, that he needed to save those stones. But he did not. And so eventually I played one more move to really say, hey, I'm really focusing on this area. And then eventually we just cut this off. And the game is pretty much over here. I know you guys didn't see the rest. There was nothing too crazy. We did look at some more cuts. We ended up getting this stone because he never finished up this cut. But the board pretty much developed the way that you'd expect. He did get a little bit more here, but again, in doing that, it's because he got those moves as we were pushing along and getting our own points here. So for our friend who played this game, thank you. I appreciate it. Just like everybody who is willing to play along with my silly little games here. I think the thing that you most need to be mindful of are cuts. And I'm not saying that cuts are easy. I struggle with them as well. But I think that's what we need to focus on, because even if we look at this board here, we have a good number of cuts that haven't been addressed yet. And you know, are all these cuts going to work? No, but it's important to know that they're there, because even something as simple as this isn't necessarily easy to answer, especially now that we're cramped up here and that there's a cut on this side. So how do you even handle this stone? The ladder doesn't work. And so you need to be mindful of stuff like this. There are just lots of cuts everywhere. And then once we get this cut, you know, if this ends up doing something like this, and then you play here to, you know, to save that group, now all of a sudden this cut becomes really painful, because now your stones are just fully cut off there. So cuts, always be mindful of cuts. Sometimes they're tricky, sometimes they're pretty straightforward. In this case, there was a good mixture of both. But that is where we will leave this one for today. So thank you for coming on another ride in the struggle bus today, where every wheel is an empty triangle. Have a good one, guys.